The rain falls like needles against the tall windows of the Manhattan courthouse. Grace Mitchell stands frozen in the center of the courtroom, her hands trembling at her sides, her breath caught somewhere between her chest and her throat. The words still echo in the hollow chamber, bouncing off marble walls and polished wood. Guilty. The word lands like a stone dropped into still water, rippling outward, destroying everything it touches. She turns her head slowly, searching for her lawyer, the man who promised her justice, who swore he would protect her interests, who took every dollar she had and smiled while doing it. Daniel Mercer sits at the defense table, but he is not looking at her. He is looking at the prosecutor, and there is something in his expression that makes her stomach turn to ice. A small, almost imperceptible nod passes between them. In that moment, Grace understands. She was never meant to win. The courtroom begins to empty around her. People in suits brush past, their conversations low and meaningless. The judge rises from his bench, his face partially obscured by the shadows of the high ceiling. She catches only fragments of him. Silver hair, broad shoulders, hands that move with deliberate precision as he gathers his papers. There is something about the way he pauses, the way his gaze lingers on her for a moment longer than necessary, that makes her skin prickle with awareness. Then he is gone, disappearing through a door behind the bench, and Grace is left standing alone in the wreckage of her life, her apartment, her savings, her reputation, the custody of her 7-year-old daughter, Emma, all of it, stripped away in the span of 45 minutes by a legal system she trusted and a lawyer she believed in. The divorce from her ex-husband Richard was supposed to be simple. He had been the one who walked away, the one who emptied their joint accounts and vanished to California with his assistant. She had done nothing wrong. But somehow, in this courtroom, she had been painted as the villain, as an unfit mother, as a woman who did not deserve the child she had raised alone for 3 years. Grace walks out of the courthouse on legs that feel like water. The October wind cuts through her thin coat, carrying the smell of exhaust and wet pavement. New York City continues around her, indifferent to her collapse. Taxis honk. People shout into their phones. A man selling hot dogs on the corner calls out prices that blur into noise. She reaches into her purse for her phone and finds her hands shaking too badly to hold it. It falls to the sidewalk, the screen cracking against concrete. She kneels to pick it up, and that is when she sees them. Black SUVs, 3 of them, parked in a perfect line across the street. The windows are tinted so dark she cannot see inside, but she can feel eyes on her, watching, waiting. A man in a dark suit stands beside the first vehicle, his hands clasped in front of him, his expression unreadable. He does not move. He simply watches. Grace grabs her phone and walks faster, her heels clicking against the wet sidewalk. She does not know where she is going. Her apartment is no longer hers. Her bank accounts have been frozen pending the final settlement. Her mother passed away 2 years ago, and her father has not spoken to her since she married Richard against his wishes. There is no one. There is nothing. She finds herself in Central Park as the afternoon light begins to fade. The trees have turned golden amber, their leaves scattered across the paths like fragments of broken promises. She sits on a bench near the lake and lets the tears come, silent and steady, rolling down her cheeks and dripping onto her clasped hands. Emma. Her daughter's face fills her mind, the gap-toothed smile, the way she always insists on wearing mismatched socks, the sound of her laughter when Grace tickles her awake in the morning. She will not see that face tonight. She will not tuck her daughter into bed or read her the same story about the brave little rabbit for the 100th time. Richard has Emma now, and the court has decided that is where she belongs. The bench creaks as someone sits down beside her. Grace does not look up. She does not care who it is. Let them rob her, let them hurt her. There is nothing left to take. A voice speaks, low and measured, with an accent she cannot quite place. You were in my courtroom today. Grace's head snaps up. The man sitting beside her is tall, with silver-streaked dark hair and eyes the color of storm clouds. He wears a perfectly tailored coat over a charcoal suit, and his presence seems to command the space around him, as if the very air has shifted to accommodate him. She recognizes him now, the judge. But here, outside the courthouse, he looks different, more dangerous, more real. "I don't understand," she whispers. "Why are you here?" He does not answer immediately. Instead, he reaches into his coat and withdraws a small envelope, which he places on the bench between them. "Open it." Her fingers tremble as she picks it up. Inside, she finds photographs. Daniel Mercer shaking hands with Richard outside a restaurant. Daniel Mercer accepting an envelope thick with cash from a man she does not recognize. Daniel Mercer meeting with the prosecutor in what appears to be a private club, their heads bent together in conversation. "Your lawyer was paid to destroy you," the man says. "The outcome of your case was decided before you ever stepped into that courtroom." Grace stares at the photographs, her mind struggling to process what she is seeing. "But you're the judge. You could have stopped it." Something flickers in his eyes, something that might be regret. "There are things about this city you do not understand, Mrs. Mitchell, powers that operate beyond the reach of any courtroom. I am not simply a judge." "Then what are you?" He stands, buttoning his coat against the wind. "My name is Marcus Calavera, and if you want to see your daughter again, you will come with me." Every instinct tells her to run. This man is dangerous. She can feel it in her bones, in the way the hairs on the back of her neck stand at attention, in the way her heart hammers against her ribs. But she thinks of Emma, of her daughter sleeping in a strange house tonight, wondering where her mother is. She thinks of Daniel Mercer and his secret meetings, of the life that has been systematically dismantled around her. Grace stands. "Where are we going?" Marcus Calavera does not smile, but something in his expression softens just slightly. "Somewhere safe." The black SUV is waiting at the edge of the park. The man in the dark suit opens the door as they approach, his eyes scanning the surroundings with practiced vigilance. Grace hesitates for only a moment before climbing inside. The interior is leather and silence, a cocoon separated from the noise of the city. Marcus slides in beside her, and the door closes with a sound, like a vault ceiling shut. They drive through Manhattan as the streetlights flicker to life. Grace watches the city pass by, the familiar landmarks rendered strange by the tinted windows. She should be afraid. She knows she should be afraid. But there is something about this man's presence, about the certainty in his voice and the steadiness of his gaze, that makes her feel, impossibly, that she might survive this. "You said you're not simply a judge," she says finally. "What did you mean?" Marcus is quiet for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice is soft, almost gentle. "There are families in this city, Mrs. Mitchell, who have held power for generations, families who operate in shadows, who shape the world according to their own laws. I was born into such a family. The judgeship is a cover, a position of legitimacy that allows me to move freely in both worlds." "You're telling me you're in the Mafia." "I am telling you that I am a man who understands how true power works and who has the resources to help you when no one else can." Grace turns to look at him, searching his face for deception. "Why would you help me? You don't know me." "I know that you are innocent. I know that you love your daughter. And I know that the men who destroyed you are the same men who have been trying to destroy my family for years." He pauses, his jaw tightening. "Richard Mitchell's lawyer, Daniel Mercer, works for a man named Victor Draven. Draven has been attempting to infiltrate my organization for a decade. Your divorce was not about custody, Mrs. Mitchell. It was about sending a message. A message to whom? To me." The SUV turns onto a private road that Grace does not recognize. Trees line both sides, their bare branches reaching toward a darkening sky. At the end of the road stands a mansion, its windows glowing with warm light against the gathering dusk. It is beautiful and imposing, a fortress dressed as a home. "You'll stay here tonight," Marcus says as the car comes to a stop. "My staff will ensure you have everything you need. Tomorrow we begin working to get your daughter back." Grace looks at the mansion, then back at the man beside her. "And if I say no, if I want to leave, then the car will take you wherever you wish to go." His voice is calm, without threat or pressure. "I am not your captor, Mrs. Mitchell. I am offering you a choice." She thinks of Emma. She thinks of the photographs in the envelope, now tucked into her purse. She thinks of all the times she believed in a system that was designed to fail her. "I'll stay," she says. The mansion is larger on the inside than it appears from the outside, if such a thing is possible. Grace follows Marcus through a grand foyer with marble floors and a chandelier that sparkles like frozen rain. Paintings line the walls, portraits of stern-faced men and elegant women who seem to watch her as she passes. The air smells of cedar and something deeper, older, like history itself. A woman appears from a side hallway, her grey hair pulled back in a neat bun, her eyes kind but sharp. "Mr. Calavera, we've prepared the East Wing as you requested." "Thank you, Helena." Marcus turns to Grace. "Helena has been with my family for 30 years. She will make sure you're comfortable." Helena offers a small smile and gestures for Grace to follow. They walk through corridors lined with bookshelves and sitting rooms furnished in deep blues and burgundies. Finally, they reach a door that opens onto a suite larger than Grace's entire former apartment. A fire crackles in the fireplace. Fresh flowers sit on the bedside table. Through the windows, she can see gardens that stretch toward a forest, their shapes softened by the failing light. "There are clothes in the closet that should fit you," Helena says. "Dinner will be served in 2 hours, or I can bring something to your room if you prefer." Grace manages to find her voice. "Here is fine, thank you." Helena nods and withdraws, closing the door softly behind her. Grace stands in the center of the room, overwhelmed by the opulence surrounding her, by the surreal turn her life has taken in the span of a single day. This morning, she woke up in her own apartment, made breakfast for Emma, and believed that today she would finally be free of Richard's shadow. Now she is standing in a stranger's mansion, a stranger who has told her he is part of the criminal underworld, accepting his protection because she has nowhere else to go. She walks to the window and presses her palm against the cool glass. Somewhere out there, Emma is wondering where her mother is. Somewhere out there, Daniel Mercer is counting his payment for betraying her. Somewhere out there, a man named Victor Draven is playing chess with people's lives. Grace does not know who Marcus Calavera really is. She does not know if she can trust him, but she knows one thing with absolute certainty. She will do whatever it takes to hold her daughter again. The fire crackles softly behind her, casting dancing shadows across the walls. Grace Mitchell takes a breath, steadies herself, and begins to plan. Check if you are already subscribed to this channel. Every week we bring stories of resilience and hope that remind you how powerful the human spirit can be. Subscribe now so you never miss a moment. The morning arrives wrapped in grey clouds and the distant sound of rain. Grace wakes disoriented, her mind taking several seconds to remember where she is. The bed beneath her is softer than any she has ever slept in, the sheets smooth as water against her skin. She sits up slowly, pushing tangled hair from her face, and finds that someone has left a tray on the table beside the fireplace. Coffee, fresh fruit, pastries that smell of butter and warmth. She eats mechanically, not tasting anything, her thoughts consumed by Emma. By now, her daughter will have woken up in Richard's house, in a room that is not hers, surrounded by strangers who call themselves family. Grace's chest aches with a physical pain that makes it difficult to breathe. A knock on the door pulls her from her spiral. "Mrs. Mitchell? Mr. Calavera would like to see you in his study when you're ready." Grace dresses quickly in clothes she finds in the closet, simple but elegant pieces that fit her perfectly, as if someone had known her measurements in advance. She follows Helena through the winding corridors of the mansion, past rooms she glimpses briefly through. Half-open doors, a library filled with leather-bound books, a music room with a grand piano, a conservatory where orchids bloom in impossible colors. Marcus's study is at the end of a long hallway, behind heavy wooden doors. Helena knocks twice and then opens them, stepping aside to let Grace enter. The room is lined with books from floor to ceiling, broken only by tall windows that look out onto the rain-soaked gardens. Marcus sits behind a massive desk, papers spread before him, a phone. pressed to his ear. He holds up one finger when he sees her, a gesture that asks for patience, and continues his conversation in a language Grace does not recognize, Italian, perhaps, or something older. She takes the opportunity to study him more closely. In the soft morning light, he looks less like a judge and more like a general surveying a battlefield. There are lines around his eyes that speak of sleepless nights and difficult decisions. His hands, resting on the desk, are strong but scarred, the hands of a man who has done more than sign papers and bang gavels. He ends the call and sets the phone aside, giving her his full attention. "Did you sleep?" "A little." She sits in the chair across from him, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. "You said we would work on getting Emma back. How?" Marcus picks up a folder from his desk and slides it toward her. "Victor Draven's organization has been under federal investigation for 2 years. They've been unable to build a case because Draven is careful, and because he has people in positions of power who protect him." He pauses. "People like Daniel Mercer." Grace opens the folder. Inside are documents, bank records, photographs. She sees Daniel's face again, and her stomach turns. "What does this have to do with my daughter?" "Your ex-husband is in debt to Draven, significant debt. He borrowed money to fund a business venture that failed, and now he owes more than he can ever repay." Marcus leans back in his chair. The custody battle was not about Emma. It was about leverage. As long as Richard has your daughter, he has a way to control you, and through you, a potential way to reach me. "Reach you? I don't even know you. Draven knows that I've been watching you. He knows that I have resources his organization wants. He is gambling that by putting you in an impossible position, he can draw me out, force me to make mistakes." A muscle ticks in Marcus's jaw. He underestimates both of us. Grace processes this information, trying to fit the pieces together. Her entire divorce, her loss, her daughter, all of it, part of a game she never knew she was playing. The injustice of it burns in her chest like a fire that refuses to go out. "What do we do?" she asks. Marcus stands and walks to the window, his silhouette dark against the grey light. "We build a case against Draven that the federal authorities cannot ignore. We expose Daniel Mercer's corruption and prove that your trial was compromised. And we do it quickly before Draven realizes what we're planning. And Emma," he turns to face her, "the moment Mercer's involvement is exposed, your case will be reopened. The custody decision will be reversed. Your daughter will come home." Home. The word sits strangely in Grace's chest. She no longer has a home. Her apartment is gone, her bank accounts frozen, her life dismantled. But she understands what he means. Wherever Emma is, that will be home. "How can I help?" she asks. "I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a detective. I was a teacher before I married Richard, and I haven't worked in years." Marcus returns to his desk and sits down, his grey eyes meeting hers with an intensity that makes her breath catch. "You are not as powerless as you believe, Mrs. Mitchell. You have spent years watching your husband's business dealings. You have access to his patterns, his contacts, his weaknesses, and you have something more valuable than any of that." "What?" "You have a reason to fight that nothing can extinguish. A mother's love is the most dangerous force in the world." The days begin to blur together, each one filled with meetings, documents, and phone calls in languages Grace does not understand. Marcus's mansion becomes a command center, populated by men and women who move with quiet efficiency, who speak in coded phrases and disappear for hours at a time. She learns their names slowly. Anthony, Marcus's right hand, a former soldier with kind eyes and a gentle voice. Sophia, a computer specialist who can find secrets buried in the deepest corners of the internet. And Luca, Marcus's younger brother, who arrives on the third day with a wide smile and an easy charm that masks something sharper beneath. Grace finds her place within this strange world more quickly than she expected. She spends hours with Sophia, going through years of emails and financial records, identifying patterns and connections that the younger woman translates into evidence. She learns to read the language of money laundering and shell companies, to trace the invisible threads that connect Daniel Mercer to Victor Draven, to her ex-husband's debts. But at night, alone in her room, the grief overwhelms her. She calls Emma every evening, the brief conversations permitted by the custody arrangement, and each time she hangs up, she feels as if a piece of her heart has been carved away. Emma asks when she is coming home. Emma asks why Mommy sounds sad. Emma asks questions that Grace cannot answer without breaking. On the fifth night, she cannot sleep. She wanders through the mansion's silent corridors, her footsteps soft against the marble floors. She finds herself in the library, drawn by the soft glow of a lamp left burning. To her surprise, Marcus is there, sitting in an armchair by the window, a glass of amber liquid in his hand. "Couldn't sleep?" he asks, not looking up. Grace hesitates, then steps into the room. "My mind won't stop," he gestures to the chair, across from him. "Join me." She sits, pulling her legs beneath her, and accepts the glass he pours for her. The liquid burns pleasantly as it goes down, spreading warmth through her chest. "Tell me about Emma," he says. The question surprises her. In all their discussions of evidence and strategy, he has never asked about the personal details of her life. "She's 7, Grace begins, her voice soft. "She loves butterflies and chocolate chip pancakes and this ridiculous stuffed elephant she's had since she was a baby. She's stubborn like me. She asks 1,000 questions about everything. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up, or maybe an astronaut. She changes her mind every week." Marcus listens without interrupting, his expression unreadable but attentive. "Before the divorce," Grace continues, "I used to take her to the park every Sunday. We'd feed the ducks and make up stories about where they went when they flew away. She believed they flew to castles in the clouds." She pauses, her throat tightening. "I wonder if she still believes that." "Children have a remarkable capacity for hope," Marcus says quietly, "even when the world gives them every reason to abandon it." "Did you ever have children?" The question slips out before she can stop it. She sees something shift in his eyes, a shadow passing over his face like a cloud crossing the sun. "No," he says, "my life has not been conducive to that kind of responsibility." "But you want them." He is silent for a long moment. "I wanted many things when I was younger. I have learned that what we want and what we can have are often very different." Grace studies him in the lamplight, this man who has become her unlikely ally. She has spent days watching him command an empire with quiet authority, making decisions that affect hundreds of lives with the calm precision of a surgeon. But here, in this quiet moment, she sees something else. A man who has sacrificed pieces of himself for the power he wields, who carries losses he does not speak about. "Why are you helping me?" she asks. The truth this time, not the strategic reasons. Marcus swirls the liquid in his glass, watching it catch the light. "Because I know what it is to have everything taken from you by people who believe the rules do not apply to them. Because I know what it is to fight alone against a system designed to crush you." He looks up, meeting her eyes. "And because when I saw you in that courtroom, I saw someone who deserved, better than the fate they were engineering for her." "You saw all that from the bench?" "I have learned to read people very quickly, Mrs. Mitchell. It is a necessary skill in my world." She finishes her drink and sets the glass aside. "Grace," he raises an eyebrow. "My name is Grace. If we're going to be allies in this, you should probably use it." Something almost like a smile crosses his face. "Very well. Grace." They sit in comfortable silence as the night deepens around them. For the first time since the courtroom, Grace feels something other than despair. It is fragile and uncertain, but it is there, the smallest spark of hope. The breakthrough comes on the 10th day. Sophia bursts into the study where Grace and Marcus are reviewing documents, her face flushed with excitement. "I found it," she says, setting her laptop on the desk. "The connection we've been looking for." The screen displays a series of wire transfers, dates and amounts highlighted in yellow. Grace leans forward, trying to understand what she's seeing. "Daniel Mercer received payments from a company called Blackwood Holdings," Sophia explains. Blackwood is a subsidiary of a subsidiary, buried under layers of shell corporations. But follow the money back far enough, and you find Victor Draven. How much? Marcus asks. $500,000 over the past year, all deposited in offshore accounts under Mercer's name. Grace feels the information settle over her like a wave. $500,000. That is the price of her life. That is what Daniel Mercer received to destroy her. There's more, Sophia continues. The payments coincide exactly with key dates in Grace's divorce proceedings, the initial filing, the deposition, the trial. She pulls up another document. And look at this. Richard's debts to Draven? They were forgiven 3 days after the custody ruling. Marcus studies the information, his expression cold and calculating. Mercer delivered what Draven wanted, and Draven rewarded him by releasing Richard from his obligations. What did Draven want? Grace asks, though she already knows the answer. You, Marcus says, isolated, vulnerable, desperate enough to accept help from anyone who offered it. So this was a trap, all of it. Yes. Marcus turns to face her, his grey eyes steady. But traps can be turned against those who set them. Draven expected you to fall. He did not expect you to fight. The next few days are a whirlwind of activity. Marcus's contacts in the federal government receive the evidence Sophia has compiled, setting in motion an investigation that will take time but cannot be stopped. A journalist known for exposing corruption receives an anonymous package containing copies of everything: the payments, the connections, the proof of a justice system twisted to serve the powerful. And then, on the morning of the 15th day, Marcus receives a phone call that changes everything. Grace is in the garden when she sees him striding toward her, his face set in an expression she has learned to recognize, controlled intensity, the look of a man preparing for battle. "What is it?" she asks. "Daniel Mercer is dead." The words hang in the air between them. Grace realizes she is holding her breath. How? His car crashed early this morning. The official report will say he lost control on a wet road. Marcus's voice is flat, without inflection. But my sources tell me Victor Draven does not tolerate loose ends. Mercer became a liability the moment we started exposing his connection to Draven. Grace feels nothing. She searches inside herself for grief, for satisfaction, for any emotion at all, and finds only emptiness. The man who took everything from her is dead, and she feels as if she is looking at the news from a great distance, as if it is happening to someone else. What does this mean? She asks. For the case? The federal investigation will continue. Draven is the real target, and Mercer's death only strengthens the evidence that he was involved in something larger. Marcus pauses. For your custody case, it changes everything. The court will have to acknowledge that your trial was compromised. A new hearing will be scheduled. When? Within the month. A month. 4 more weeks of phone calls that end too soon, of Emma's voice asking questions Grace cannot answer, of lying awake at night imagining her daughter's face. It feels like an eternity. It feels like a gift. "Thank you," she says. And the words, "feel inadequate for everything she means." Marcus shakes his head. "Do not thank me yet. Draven will not accept this quietly. He knows what we've done, and he will retaliate. Then we prepare." He looks at her for a long moment, something shifting in his eyes. "Yes, we prepare. If you have felt any emotion watching this story so far, leave a comment right now saying, 'Grace's strength gives me hope.' I want to know who is here with me, who believes that love and determination can overcome any obstacle. The retaliation comes 3 days later. Grace is in the library, surrounded by documents, when the first explosion shatters the morning quiet. The sound is distant but unmistakable, a boom that reverberates through the walls and makes the chandeliers tremble. She is on her feet before she realizes she has moved, her heart hammering in her chest. Marcus appears in the doorway, his face grim. "Stay here. Do not leave this room." "What's happening?" "Draven's men. They've breached the outer perimeter." He crosses to her in 3 strides and takes her shoulders in his hands. "Listen to me. Anthony is coming to take you to the safe room. You stay there until I come for you. Do you understand?" "Marcus, Do you understand? She nods, her throat too tight for words. He releases her and is gone, moving with a speed and purpose that transforms him from the man who shared quiet conversations in the library to something older, more dangerous. Anthony appears moments later, his kind, eyes now hard with focus. This way, Mrs. Mitchell. They move through corridors Grace has never seen before, hidden passages behind bookcases and walls that open onto staircases descending into darkness. The safe room is beneath the mansion, a reinforced space with thick steel walls and monitors showing views of the estate from every angle. Grace watches the screens in horror. Men in black tactical gear move through the gardens, exchanging fire with Marcus's security. Explosions bloom like terrible flowers in the distance. And through it all she sees Marcus, moving from position to position, giving orders, directing the defense of his home with the calm of a man who has faced death many times before. The battle lasts 3 hours. When it is over, the gardens are scarred with craters, 2 of the outer buildings are in ruins, and 7 of Draven's men have been captured. The rest retreated when they realized they could not break through. Marcus comes to the safe room himself, his face streaked with dirt, his suit torn at the shoulder. Grace runs to him without thinking, her hands reaching for him, needing to confirm that he is real, that he is alive. "Are you hurt?" she asks. "No." He takes her hands in his, steadying her. "It's over. We held them. For now." "For now," he agrees. But this changes the equation. Draven has shown his hand. He attacked a defended position in broad daylight. That speaks to desperation. Or confidence. Marcus shakes his head. A confident man does not risk exposure like this. He is running out of options, Grace. We are winning. She wants to believe him. She wants to trust that this is nearly over, that Emma will be home soon, that she will be able to rebuild some version of the life that was stolen from her. But she has learned too much about how the world works to believe in easy endings. "What happens next?" she asks. "We increase security. We accelerate the legal proceedings, and we wait for Draven to make his next move." The waiting is the hardest part. Grace throws herself into work, helping Sophia compile evidence, meeting with the lawyers Marcus has brought in to handle her case. She learns to fire a weapon, insisting that if she is going to be at the center of this war, she will not be helpless. Anthony teaches her, patient and thorough, until she can group her shots in the center of a target. But the nights remain difficult. She dreams of Emma, of courtrooms that shift and change around her, of Daniel Mercer's face transforming into Victor Draven's smile. She wakes gasping, tangled in sheets damp with sweat, and sometimes she finds Marcus awake too, pacing the halls or standing at windows watching the darkness. They do not talk about what is growing between them. It exists in glances that last too long, in hands that brush against each other when passing documents, in the way her heart races when he enters a room. Grace tells herself it is inappropriate, that she is vulnerable and he is helping her. And any emotion she feels is simply gratitude wearing a different mask. But she knows it is more than that. She knows it in the way he looks at her when he thinks she is not watching, in the gentleness that breaks through his control in quiet moments. 3 weeks after the attack, the court date is set. Marcus arranges for Grace to testify via video link, unwilling to risk her presence in a public courtroom where Draven might have allies waiting. She sits in a room in the mansion, facing a camera and a screen that shows the judge. A different judge this time, one Marcus assures her is beyond Draven's reach. The hearing lasts 2 hours. Grace answers questions about her marriage, about Emma, about the lawyer who betrayed her. She presents the evidence that Sophia has compiled, the payments and connections that prove her trial was corrupted. She speaks about her daughter with a fierce love that makes her voice shake, and when she is finished, she feels as if she has poured every ounce of herself into those words. The ruling comes 3 days later. Marcus brings her the news himself, finding her in the garden where she is taken to walking in the early mornings. His face tells her everything before he speaks a word. "The custody order has been reversed," he says. "Emma will be returned to you within 48 hours. Grace's legs give out. She sinks onto a stone bench, her hands covering her face, and begins to cry. The tears come from somewhere deeper than grief or joy, from a place that holds all the fear and hope and love that have kept her alive through these impossible weeks. She feels Marcus sit beside her, feels his arm come around her shoulders, and she leans into him, letting him hold her while she falls apart and puts herself back together. "Thank you," she whispers when she can speak again. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." "You did this," he says quietly. "Your strength, your courage. I only provided the resources." She lifts her head to look at him, really look at him. This man who has become her protector, her partner, her friend. "Marcus." "Yes?" "When this is over, when Emma is home and Draven is finished, what happens to us?" His grey eyes search her face, and she sees the answer there before he speaks. "What would you want to happen?" "I want—" She pauses, gathering courage she did not know she possessed. "I want to find out what this could be. If there is anything between us beyond crisis and convenience." "There is," he says, his voice rough. "Grace, there is so much more than that." He kisses her then, gentle and certain, and Grace feels something crack open inside her, something that has been closed since long before the courtroom, since long before Richard, since perhaps forever. She kisses him back, and the morning light spills over them like a blessing. Emma comes home on a Thursday. Grace stands at the entrance of the mansion, her heart pounding so hard she can feel it in her throat. A car appears at the end of the long driveway, moving slowly, and she forces herself to wait, to not run toward it like her body is demanding. The car stops, the door opens, and then Emma is there, running across the gravel, her arms outstretched, her face transformed by a smile that lights up the world. "Mommy!" Grace catches her daughter and lifts her, holding her so tight that Emma squeaks in protest. She is laughing and crying at the same time, pressing kisses to Emma's hair, her forehead, her cheeks. "I'm here," she whispers. "Mommy's here. I'm never letting you go again." "I missed you," Emma says into her shoulder. "I missed you so much." "I know, baby. I missed you too, more than anything." They stand like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, while the world continues around them. Finally, Grace sets Emma down and kneels to her level, brushing hair from her daughter's face. "There's someone I want you to meet," she says. "A friend of mine. His name is Marcus." Emma's eyes widen as she looks up at the mansion, at the man standing in the doorway watching them with an expression Grace has never seen on his face before, something tender, something hopeful. "Is this a castle?" Emma asks. Grace laughs, a sound of pure joy. "Something like that." Marcus comes down the steps and crouches beside them, putting himself at Emma's level. "Hello, Emma. I've heard so much about you." Emma studies him with the frank assessment of childhood. "Do you have any pets?" "I have horses. Would you like to see them?" Her eyes go wide. "Horses, real horses?" "Very real. Your mother said you like animals." Emma looks at Grace, seeking permission, and Grace nods, her heart full to bursting. "Go on. I'll be right here." She watches Marcus take Emma's hand and lead her toward the stables, listening to her daughter's excited chatter fade into the distance. The morning sun is warm on her face, and for the first time in weeks, she allows herself to believe that everything might actually be okay. But Victor, Draven is still out there, and Grace knows that until he is dealt with, none of them are truly safe. The next few weeks are the happiest of Grace's life since before her marriage fell apart. Emma settles into the mansion with the adaptability of childhood, claiming a room near Grace's own and filling it with drawings of horses and butterflies. She follows Marcus around the estate with endless questions, and he answers each one with patience that surprises Grace, and clearly surprises him as well. They become something like a family, though no one speaks the word aloud. Meals together in the kitchen, evening walks through the gardens, bedtime stories that Grace reads while Marcus listens from the doorway, his grey eyes soft in the lamplight. Emma begins to call him Mr. Marcus, then just Marcus, and finally one evening at dinner, she looks up and says, Can I call you Uncle Marcus? The silence stretches for a heartbeat too long. Grace sees something move across Marcus's face, an emotion so profound that it steals her breath. I would be honored, he says. Life takes on a rhythm, but beneath the surface, work continues. Sophia tracks Draven's movements. Anthony coordinates security, and Marcus makes quiet calls in his study, building alliances, gathering evidence, preparing for the confrontation that everyone knows is coming. It arrives on a night in early December, the first snow of the season falling softly outside the windows. Grace is reading in the library when Marcus finds her. His face is set in the expression she has come to recognize, controlled intensity, the look of a man preparing for battle. We've located Draven, he says. He's meeting with federal witnesses tomorrow, trying to buy his way out of the investigation. This is our chance. Our chance for what? To end this. Marcus sits across from her, his hands clasped between his knees. The federal authorities are ready to move, but they need someone inside. Someone Draven trusts, or thinks he can, manipulate. Grace's stomach drops. You want to use me as bait? I want to give you a choice. The authorities believe that if you agree to meet with Draven wearing a wire, he will say enough to guarantee his conviction. But I will not ask you to do this. The risk is significant. And if I don't, what happens? The case against him continues, but more slowly. It could take years, and during those years, he remains a threat to you, to Emma, to everyone we care about. Grace thinks about her daughter, sleeping peacefully upstairs. She thinks about the life they are building here, the future that shimmers just beyond reach. She thinks about all the months of fear and loss and fighting, and she knows that she cannot let this continue forever. I'll do it, she says. Marcus's jaw tightens. Grace? No. This is my choice. You've given me everything. Safety, hope, the chance to be with my daughter again. Let me give something back. Let me end this. He looks at her for a long moment, and she sees the war playing out behind his eyes, the desire to protect her battling against his respect for her autonomy. Very well, he says finally, but I will be there. Every moment. If anything goes wrong, my people will extract you immediately. I know. She reaches out and takes his hand. I trust you. The meeting is arranged for the following evening, at a restaurant in Manhattan that Draven uses for sensitive conversations. Grace spends the day preparing, memorizing questions designed to draw out incriminating statements, learning the signals that will tell the teams waiting outside if she needs help. Emma knows only that Mommy has to go out for a while. She accepts this with the trust of childhood, asking only that Grace bring back cookies from the city. The biggest ones they have, she specifies. I promise, Grace says, holding her tight. I'll be back before bedtime. Marcus drives her into the city himself, his hands steady on the wheel, his eyes checking the mirrors. Every few seconds, the wire is invisible beneath her clothes, a tiny microphone that will transmit everything to the federal agents waiting in vehicles outside. Remember, he says as they approach the restaurant, you don't have to prove anything. You just need to get him talking, let him think he's in control. I understand. And if you feel unsafe, even for a moment, use the signal. My people will come through those doors in seconds. Grace looks at him, this man who has become so much more than she ever expected. I'll be okay. He catches her hand and brings it to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. Come back to me. I will. The restaurant is elegant and nearly empty, reserved for Draven's private meeting. Grace is escorted to a table in the back, where a man waits with the confidence of someone who has never been told no. Victor Draven is smaller than she expected, with silver hair and the kind of face that belongs in boardrooms and country clubs. He smiles as she approaches, and there is nothing in that smile that suggests the monster behind it. Mrs. Mitchell, he says, rising to greet her, thank you for coming. I know we haven't met under the best circumstances. You destroyed my life, Grace says flatly. I'd call that a poor first impression. He laughs, gesturing for her to sit. Direct. I appreciate that. So let me be direct in return. I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. Marcus Calavera has caused significant problems for my organization. Significant enough that I'm willing to make considerable concessions to solve them. He leans forward, his eyes sharp. I'm prepared to restore everything that was taken from you. Your apartment, your savings, full, uncontested custody of your daughter. All I need in return is information about Calavera's operations. Grace forces herself to look intrigued. What kind of information? Security protocols, business contacts, anything that would help me understand his vulnerabilities. And you expect me to betray the man who helped me when no one else would? Draven's smile widens. I expect you to be intelligent enough to recognize the winning side. Calavera is a relic, clinging to outdated codes of honor that have no place in the modern world. I, on the other hand, am the future. Align yourself with me, and you'll want for nothing. Grace lets the silence stretch, calculating. She needs more. Something explicit enough to guarantee conviction. How do I know you'll keep your word? She asks. You had my lawyer paid off to destroy me. Why should I trust anything you say? Something flickers in Draven's eyes. Satisfaction at being acknowledged. Pride in his own cleverness. Daniel Mercer was a tool, he says dismissively. A useful one until he became a liability. You've seen how I handle liabilities. You had him killed. I had a problem solved, just as I can solve your problems or create new ones. The choice is yours. There. Grace feels the weight of his words settling into the recording, evidence that cannot be denied. I need time to think, she says. This is a significant decision. Of course. Draven pulls a card from his pocket and slides it across the table. Call this number when you've made up your mind, but don't take too long, Mrs. Mitchell. My patience has limits. Grace stands, her legs trembling beneath her. She makes it to the door, to the cold night air, to the car waiting at the curb. Marcus is there, pulling, her inside, his arms wrapping around her as the vehicle speeds away. You did it, he says into her hair. It's over. But it is not over. Not yet. The federal authorities move quickly once they have Draven's confession. Warrants are issued, properties are raided, associates are arrested in a cascade of consequences that dominates the news for weeks. Victor Draven himself is taken into custody on a cold morning in January, photographed in handcuffs on the steps of his mansion. His empire, crumbling around him. Grace watches the coverage with Marcus at her side, Emma playing with her horses in the next room. The man who tried to destroy her family is going to spend the rest of his life behind bars. The system that failed her has been forced to acknowledge its failures, and she has emerged from the wreckage stronger than she ever imagined possible. How do you feel? Marcus asks. Grace considers the question. Relieved. Grateful. A little bit like I've been holding my breath for months and can finally exhale. He puts his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. What do you want to do now? Now? She looks around the room, at the fire crackling in the hearth, at the snow falling softly outside the windows, at the drawings Emma has taped to every available surface. Now I want to live, really live, without looking over my shoulder. And would you want to do that here? With me? Grace turns to face him, searching his eyes for any sign of doubt or hesitation. She finds none. I would want to do that anywhere, she says, as long as you're there. He kisses her, and through the doorway they hear Emma's voice raised in delighted discovery. Mommy! Uncle Marcus! The horses made footprints in the snow. They go to the window together, all three of them, and watch the horses move through the white landscape, their breath rising in clouds. Emma presses her nose to the glass, fogging it with her excitement. Can we make snow angels? She asks. We can make anything you want, Marcus says, and Grace believes him. Spring arrives in a rush of green and gold, transforming the estate into something from a painting. Grace walks through the gardens with Emma's hand in hers, pointing out the first flowers pushing through the soil, the birds returning from their winter migrations. So much has changed in the month since the courtroom. Grace has begun working again, consulting for a non-profit that helps women navigate legal challenges in custody disputes. Marcus has stepped back from his more dangerous business interests, transferring control to Luca, while he focuses on legitimate enterprises. They have built something together, piece by piece, day by day, a life that neither of them expected, but both of them needed. The wedding is small, held in the garden on a perfect June afternoon. Emma serves as flower girl, scattering petals with more enthusiasm than accuracy, her laughter ringing through the roses. Helena cries quietly in the front row. Anthony serves as best man, his kind eyes bright with happiness. Grace walks toward Marcus in a simple white dress, her heart so full she cannot speak. He waits for her beneath an arch of flowers, his grey eyes soft, his usual control stripped away to reveal only love. "I never thought I would have this," he says when she reaches him. "I never let myself hope for this." "Neither did I," she whispers back, "but here we are. Here we are." The ceremony is brief and beautiful. They exchange vows that have been written in the quiet hours of many nights, promises forged in crisis and tested by fire. When Marcus kisses her, Grace feels the last of her walls crumble, the final defenses she had built around her heart dissolving into something new. They are married, they are family, they are home. If you have watched this far, it is because this story has touched your heart. Leave a comment right now saying, "I watched until the end." I want to get to know you, to see who truly appreciates the stories here on this channel. And please hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to believe in second chances, and subscribe if you have not already. Every story here is created for people like you, people who understand that love can be found in the most unexpected places, that strength can grow from the deepest pain, and that family is not always the one we are born into, but the one we choose. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Until the next story. 5 years later, Grace stands on the porch of their home, no longer a fortress, but truly a home now, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. Emma is 10 years old, long-legged and thoughtful, sketching horses in a notebook on the steps. Beside her sits her younger brother, 3-year-old Daniel, named for no one in particular, a fresh start in human form. He is stacking blocks and knocking them down with the gleeful destruction only a toddler can muster. Marcus emerges from the house carrying glasses of lemonade, pausing to ruffle Daniel's hair and admire Emma's latest drawing. He hands Grace a glass and stands beside her, his shoulder touching hers. "Anthony called," he says. "The foundation reached its goal this quarter. 500 families helped. The foundation was Grace's idea, born from her work with the non-profit, expanded with Marcus's resources. They help women who have been failed by the legal system, who have lost children or homes or hope. They provide lawyers, counselors, housing, whatever is needed. It will never undo what Grace went through, but it transforms that pain into something redemptive. 500 families, she repeats. I never imagined. I did." Marcus turns to look at her, his grey eyes warm in the evening light. "From the moment I saw you stand up in that courtroom and refuse to break, I knew you would change the world. I had help." She leans into him, fitting perfectly against his side, as she has learned to do. "Over the years, I had you. You had yourself. You had courage and love and an absolute refusal to surrender. I merely opened a few doors." Emma looks up from her drawing. "Mommy, can we have pancakes for dinner?" "Chocolate chip?" Grace asks, already knowing the answer. "Obviously." Daniel claps his hands. "Pancakes, pancakes, pancakes!" Grace laughs and scoops him up, pressing a kiss to his round cheek. "I think that's a yes." They go inside together, leaving the sunset to paint the sky in their absence. The mansion is filled with the sounds of family. Emma's voice reading to Daniel, Marcus's laughter from the kitchen, the clatter of bowls and the sizzle of batter on the griddle. Grace pauses in the doorway, watching them. 5 years ago, she stood in a courtroom and watched her life collapse. She lost everything she had built, every certainty she had clung to, every dream she had dared to dream. And then she found this. Not a fairy tale. Fairy tales are simple. The princess is rescued, the villain is slain, the ending is guaranteed. This is messier than that. This is real. There have been hard conversations and harder choices. There have been moments when old fears resurfaced, when past wounds reopened, when the weight of everything they had survived threatened to pull them under. But they held on. To each other. To the life they were building. To the belief that love, real love, is not about perfection. It is about showing up, day after day, and choosing each other, again and again. Marcus looks up and catches her watching. He smiles, that rare, full smile that still makes her heart skip. "Are you coming?" Grace walks into the kitchen, into the warmth and chaos, into the life she never expected but cannot imagine living without. "I'm here," she says. "I'm not going anywhere." And she means it. Outside, the last light fades from the sky, and the stars begin to appear, one by one, like promises kept. In the kitchen, a family sits down to chocolate chip. Pancakes and their laughter spills out into the evening, a sound of joy that has been hard-won and is, for that reason, all the more precious. Grace Mitchell Calavera closes her eyes and lets herself feel it all, the warmth, the love, the absolute miracle of ordinary happiness. She has been betrayed and broken and rebuilt. She has lost everything and found something better. She has learned that the darkest moments can become the foundation for the brightest futures, that pain can be transformed into purpose, that a mother's love is indeed the most powerful force in the world. And she knows, with the certainty that comes only from having survived the unthinkable, that whatever comes next, she is ready. Because she is not the woman who walked into that courtroom anymore. She is something stronger. She is something braver. She is home.